Most business owners unknowingly build their own prisons. They design a business model that traps them, one that demands more, drains more, and eventually it breaks them. And the worst part, they don't even realize it's happening until they're drowning in stress, resenting their clients, and questioning if they even want to keep going. But here's the truth: the right business model should fuel you, not deplete you. It should be designed to fit your life, not consume it. And if yours isn't doing that, then it's working against you and not for you. And this is where most business owners get it wrong. They focus on growth, revenue, and scaling, but they never stop to ask, is the way that I'm building this actually sustainable for me? Because if your business model is set up in a way that drains you or forces you into roles that you hate or requires more from you than you can realistically give, it's only a matter of time before you hit a wall. So today, we're going to break down exactly what it takes to build a business model that fuels you instead of depleting you, and one that fits your strengths, aligns with your long-term goals, and actually makes success feel better, not heavier. Now, hey, and welcome back to the Business Real Talk. Before I even jump into today's episode, I want to take a quick moment to share our upcoming Gold Standard Clients Workshop. Now, inside of this implementation workshop, I'm going to share with you how to attract and fill your pipeline with high-value buyers in just 14 days, all without more marketing, more offers, or another useless ICA exercise. Inside this hands-on event, I'll be sharing with you our proven and proprietary DNA formula that uses an intent-based strategy to help you find and attract your gold standard clients. You'll walk away from this workshop with the proven formula behind gold standard clients, complete with the system that identifies the buying DNA of those ready buyers so you can stop guessing and start attracting buyers. You'll have a complete client profile and the applicable strategy that you can use immediately inside of your business. Click the link inside the show notes or just send us a quick message asking for that link to join us for this $57 implementation workshop. Now, last week we talked all about how to find those winning marketing angles and the foolproof formula that we use to create these. And we shared how companies like Nike, Apple, and Spotify went from unknown to industry giant with just one winning marketing angle. So trust me, this is a must listen. But here's the thing. No matter how strong your marketing is, no matter how great your offer is, if your business model isn't built to sustain long-term success, it's going to make you feel like you're running on fumes. And that's exactly why we need to talk about the biggest mistake that business owners make when setting up their model. One that leads straight to burnout, bad decisions, and offers they can't even stand. Now, I'm sure that you've heard a lot of advice about how to build your business model. There are a ton of gurus out there telling you what's worked for them. But here's the thing. Just because something worked for someone else doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. You understand that. And if you're following the wrong advice, you could be setting yourself up for a whole lot of unnecessary struggle. Now, most businesses are stuck in one of three ways of how they think about growth and scaling. The first one is that scaling means that they need to add more offers, hire more people, and doing more. We've all heard this, right? If you want to scale, you need more products, more hires, and more activity. But here's the thing. Scaling doesn't always mean doing more. In fact, if you're always adding more to your plate, you might as well just be creating a bigger mess. Scaling the right way means building systems and processes that let you do less, but do it better. Now, the second way of thinking is what's worked for others should work for me, right? This is one of the biggest traps I see, that we think that just because it's worked for someone else, just because they have a proven system, doesn't actually mean that it's going to be the right fit for your business. So maybe their business model works in their industry or with their audience or even with their own personality and resources, but that doesn't mean that that's the answer for you. So trying to copy someone else's success without considering what you need in your own business is like wearing someone else's shoes. They might be trendy, but they're not going to fit your feet. And the third one is that I just need to work harder. I just need to hustle more and I'll get those results that I want. But more effort doesn't always translate to more results. That's the reality. Sometimes working smarter, not harder, is the key to growth. So hustle is great for a season, but if your entire business model relies on constant grinding, burnout is inevitable. And we saw that in 2024 with so many business owners either completely shutting down their doors or creating a completely different business model that removes them from the process because they were just sick and tired of the work that they were doing. And that burnout can keep you from ever actually reaching the success that you want. So here's the reality. Your business model has to fit you. Sounds simple, right? But it has to take into consideration your strengths, your energy, your long-term goals, even your personality. You can't just chase someone else's blueprint. This is where so many business owners get it wrong. Your model needs to take into consideration what's going to work for you now and in the future. So it all starts with knowing how your business model is designed and whether it's actually fitting you. So a few years ago, we bought a house in one of the best suburbs. It had everything that people said that you should want. Top rated schools? Check. A 15-minute drive to the beach? Check. Family friendly community events? Check. The whole package, right? So we bought it. But guess what? We hated it. That commute to work was a nightmare for my husband. We barely used the beach. And as much as we liked the idea of community events, we never actually went to them. See, everything that was supposed to be ideal wasn't ideal for us. And this happens to business owners all the time. They build a business model based on what they think they should want, scaling fast, hiring a big team, launching multiple offers, only to realize that what works for others doesn't necessarily work for them. Nonetheless, do they like it? The real question isn't what's the best business model? It's what's the best business model for me? Because here's the thing, success isn't just about revenue and scaling. It's about creating a business that actually works for your life, your strengths, and your long-term vision. Think about it. You wouldn't buy a house just because someone said it was perfect, right? Without considering whether it actually fits the way you live. So why would you build a business that way? So here's what I want you to understand. I want you to realize that you do not have to follow the industry standards. Things like you need to create a high ticket offer, but what if working with people so closely drives you up the wall? Or you need to scale with a big team, but what if managing people just drains you? Or you need to be on every platform, but what if content creation isn't your strength? The mistake isn't in choosing any of these strategies. The mistake is in choosing them without considering whether they fit you. See, when your business model isn't aligned with your strengths and personality, everything feels harder than it should. And I bet you that you've felt this at some point, right? Maybe you've started to resent your clients because you're overworked and under-energized. You're second guessing the decisions that you make because the strategies you're using don't feel right. And maybe you find yourself dreading parts of your business that you thought would bring you freedom. This is how business owners burn out, not because they're not capable, but because they built something that constantly works against them. Instead of asking, what's the best strategy? Here's the questions I want you to ask yourself. What do I actually enjoy doing in my business? What kind of work fuels me instead of draining me? And what kind of structure do I need to support my lifestyle and long-term goals? Because the right business model isn't the one that looks the best on paper. It's the one that makes success sustainable and inevitable for you. So before we move on, I want you to ask yourself, is the way that I've built my business actually built for me? Or am I stuck in a model that was never meant to fit? One of the questions I ask my potential clients on a growth optimizer call is what they'd like to see that happen in their business and their lives in the next 6 months. See, both of those questions are really important because your strategy, your systems, and even the business model are going to be dependent upon you, what freedom looks like for you. Or if you're like me and want to create a business that allows you to check out at 2 p.m., turn everything off so that you can just be with your family, we need to engineer your business so that it can do that. But here's the thing, even if your business model fits you now, it has to work for where you're going because what works for right now may not be what actually gets you to the next level. You've heard that a lot, right? What got you here isn't going to be what gets you there. And this is where so many business owners unknowingly set themselves up for struggle because they're playing into that exact strategy that everyone says, which is the strategy that you have that got you here won't get you there. But I'm calling bullshit because the reality is if you're actually looking at your business strategically, you can and should build a business model that serves both your short-term goals, but also takes into consideration your goals from 6 months from now, a year from now, or even 5 years down the line. See, I had a client, let's call her Lisa. Lisa had built her entire business model around one-to-one services because in the beginning, it was the fastest way to bring in revenue. And it worked, right? She had steady income and a full roster of clients. But then she hit a wall. She was maxed out on time. She was exhausted from back-to-back calls, and she was completely stuck in her business that only made money when she was working. So yeah, her short-term business model was working, but it had trapped her. It got her to a place of stability, but it couldn't take her to scale. And this is where most business owners get stuck. They build this business model that works for the right now, but they don't actually think about how it's going to support them where they want to be long term. And let me clarify this for you. I think so many people think of business model simply as the offers that we have, the way that we're going to serve clients, one-to-one, one-to-many, done for you. And that's great. Those are one piece of the puzzle. But even when creating those offers and creating the delivery systems, we want to look at it as beyond that, because sure, it's easier and more sustainable in the beginning for us to build one-to-one offers. But if you're not building that one-on-one offer so that it can compound and grow as you grow, as the demand you create grows, then again, you're just reinventing your business every other week. It's like packing for a week-long trip, but only bringing clothes for the first day. Sure, you're covered for right now, but by day 2, you're scrambling. The weather changes, the itinerary shifts, and suddenly you're stuck without what you need. So most business owners make this business model decisions the same way. They pack for today without thinking about the full journey ahead. So I want you to think about not just what feels urgent, but what feels smart for your long-term success. This is why we see so many business owners constantly pivoting, burning out, or having to rebuild their entire business every few years because they build this cash flow heavy model that pays them now, but it doesn't scale. They rely on launch cycles that require them to be constantly in this promotion mode, and they make too many custom projects, which keeps them stuck trading time for money. But here's what they don't consider. What happens when they want to grow? Can their business model handle more demand without requiring more of them? Will this structure support them when they want to take time off? Will they eventually hate the way that their business is set up? Which only leads to looking at a business that takes things away from you. So you scale too fast, only to realize that your business can't handle the weight. And you lock yourself into a model that works for a season, but not for the future. And you end up making decisions that feel like they keep you stuck because you never planned ahead about what you actually wanted. So instead, the key is for you to build a business model that evolves with you, one that supports you where you're at right now, but also creates a clear path for where you want to be. So instead of just focusing on 3 months, I want you to start thinking, what do I want my business to look like 3 years from now? How do I create leverage so I'm not constantly rebuilding? And am I setting up a model that gets better with time or one that needs to be restarted every year? Because when your business model is designed with both your short-term wins and your long-term success in mind, you're not just growing, you're building something that lasts. Now, maybe you're at this point where you're starting to think, oh my gosh, am I only setting up my business model for success short-term, but not for the long-term? Don't worry. The good news is it's very easy to fix, but the solution isn't just about making some small tweaks. It's about intentionally designing a model that fuels your growth instead of fighting against it. So what does a business model that actually works long-term look like? So let's break it down. Number 1, it's designed to scale without requiring more from you. So if your revenue right now depends on you doing more, meaning more calls, more launches, more custom work, you're setting yourself up for a hard ceiling, right? Instead, you need to create offers that allow leverage. So your income isn't tied to your time. Now, again, I don't mean that you have to have one-to-many offers. I've had clients that have successfully scaled one-to-one offers, but they have a delivery system built into the actual offer that doesn't rely so much on them. I've even had agencies who are super successful, but are so dependent upon them and their team. But then when we systemize the process, they were able to get their clients better results without requiring so much from them. Now, you also want to look at, do you have a delivery model that can handle more clients? Because the reality is, if you don't have a model that allows you to take on the demand that you're creating, then you're not able to grow, right? And you want to have an opportunity to be able to scale that business. Next is, do you have a system that actually grows with you? So not one that you're outgrowing every year. So if you're doing things that are dependent on very specific and trending strategies, you're going to outgrow them. I'm just going to tell you this right now. You see so many people who are locked into, I'm going to use podcasts because that's what everyone's talking about, or short form content because that's all the rage. Then they're constantly having to reinvent the wheel when things make a shift. So think of it like an architect who's designing a house. You don't want to build this like tiny studio if you knew that you were going to have a family of 5, right? You want to design a home that can expand with your needs, and your business model needs to do the same thing. So the second piece of the puzzle is that we need to look at how it prioritizes your consistent and predictable revenue. Now, most business owners are building a business that is reliant on launch cycles or inconsistent client work or in unpredictable cash flow or even referrals. Because the reality is, if we can't predict where our next clients are coming from, then we can't create a revenue stream that we know is repeatable. And that's a recipe for stress and instability. And we've watched so many people struggle with this, where they were leveraging live launches and now they're exhausted and burnt out and they're not even working as effectively as they used to be. So now they're shuffling and trying to figure out what to do next. And they're building an SLO offer, they're building a book funnel, they're doing all these things that aren't actually creating predictability in that. So I want you to think about it from a standpoint of you want to create recurring or predictable revenue streams. I have quite literally had the same offers and the same revenue streams for about 8 years now, meaning I'm not creating strategies, I'm not creating systems, I'm not creating a business model that's dependent on constant change. You want to ensure that you're doing that. And one of the key ways that we do this is understanding that you always have high intent buyers in your pipeline. So one of the conversations we've been having a lot inside of our programs is that we don't actually have to shift who we're marketing to. So a lot of people saw a downturn in 2024 because economies changed and the way people bought changed as a result of that. It used to be that people had more of a disposable income. So someone who wasn't high intent, someone who maybe had some intent but wasn't fully convinced on solving their problem would throw money on things because there was more of a disposable income. But in the time where now people are tightening their wallets, we understand that high intent clients are still high intent clients. These are people who have made solving their problem priority number one. So we didn't have to shift who we spoke to. We didn't have to create new business models, new offers, new systems, because we focused on targeting high intent clients. So I want you to really think about that is one of the key factors. It's why we created this implementation workshop, is because that is step one. That is the foundation of everything else we do. Now, we also want to remove the need for constant hustling and reactive sales. You've heard me say this, but if you're building a business that requires you to constantly have to shuffle to try and figure out what to do next, you're set up to fail. So it's a lot like having a business that allows you to constantly create more success without always having to do something new in order to do that. Okay. And the third piece of the puzzle is it built around your strengths and goals? This is probably one of the most overlooked pieces because no one takes into consideration who they are. They don't look at their personality. They don't look at their lifestyle, and they don't look at what works best for them. I mean, when I started my business, everyone told me I had to go live. I had to run challenges. I had to do all these things that, as someone who's an introvert, I felt really freaking uncomfortable with doing. And instead of doing that and hating it and dreading it and being inconsistent in it, I had to look at what works best for me. So when we look at our clients, we don't say, hey, take this system, apply it in your world, and we hope it works. You're just going to have to try and be more like me. Instead, we say, what are your strengths? What's your personality? What is the goals that you have? What do you want your lifestyle to look like? And then we build the systems, the strategies, and the actual business model around what works for you. So I want you to think about it. You need a structure that's going to play into your strengths and your energy cycles, an offer suite that aligns with your long-term goals. I recently had a conversation with someone when I said, I don't offer low ticket or low transformation offers. I don't call them low ticket because I look at it as what can I create that creates a highest transformation possible. So for me, the priority in my business isn't passive income. It's how can I drive the best results and the most success for my clients so that I'm creating the highest level of impact. That is priority number one for me. So I'm not going to build an offer suite that focuses on ascension or trying to bring in people who have zero intent of having transformation. I'm not going to do that because it doesn't fit my needs, but someone else might. And there's nothing wrong with that. And lastly, is you want a delivery system that allows you to operate in your highest zone of genius. Again, I talk about the fact that I have high touch programs. I have programs where I'm fully engulfed in your business, where I know your business better than you probably know it. I could sell for you on a sales call if I needed to. That's important because that's my highest zone of genius. I work best when I can support my clients in a very in-depth way. So I want you to think of that. And I want you to think about it as it's like training for a marathon. You wouldn't copy someone else's routine, right? Because your body, your endurance, and your goals are going to be completely different than theirs. You're going to create a plan that's tailored for your strengths and your end goal. So the business model isn't just about what's going to work today. It's about what's going to work years from now. It's the reason why I have clients who come back to me 12, 13 years later, still using the same strategies and systems we built back then. That's important. So I want you to think about it and ask yourself, instead of just how do I make more money right now, I want you to start asking, how do I create leverage so I'm not constantly rebuilding? Is this business model still going to work for me when I take more time off? We're just recapping some of these things, right? Am I setting up my business that fuels me or one that's just draining me? Now that we've talked about where so many people go wrong in the business model and why it's not just about what's working for now, but what works for you as you grow, I want you to think about, how do we create a business model that's set up to support you at scale? What does it look like? And I'm going to share with you what we call our high profit scaling model. This model is designed to help you maximize profit, leverage systems, and scale sustainably. So without overcomplicating your business or burning you out. And it's doing this by covering the major components of successful business models. So let's look at it. Now, what we look at is that we don't want to just jump in and create willy-nilly. Most business owners are making that mistake of looking at their business in isolation. So they're focusing on their offers and their clients. But true scalability comes from understanding industry gaps and leveraging innovation. That's why the first system inside of our high profit scaling model is really understanding the innovation system. This system ensures that you're not just following trends, you're leading the industry so that you can actually step away from the cycle of more offers, more services, more complexity, and you're focusing on refining and not adding. So this system helps you identify your most high profit, high leverage opportunities. So instead of competing based on price or features, you're creating a category of your own. Whether that means right now you don't have a lot of competition, you're setting up your business for when competition does come in, because it's going to happen. And you refine just one powerful approach rather than constantly adding new offers. And let me clarify this. When we talk methodology, when I share with you that we create innovative gap methodology, this is not offer framework. So many people confuse this concept of innovation by thinking about how they're creating innovation in their offers. And yes, innovation in your offers are important and it's a part of the innovation system as a whole. But when we talk methodology, when I share with you how we help our clients develop this innovative gap methodology, I want you to understand that we're not looking at it from an offer standpoint. So it's actually offer independent. So we're looking at it as, what's our beliefs? What's our strategy around industry change that is not tied to an offer, so that you can create offers that shift and evolve as you shift and evolve, but that your methodology remains the same. So that's important. And then from that is, what's your positioning, right? How are you creating positioning that's so clear that high intent buyers are seeing you as the only option? Because when you focus on refinement over expansion, your business doesn't just grow, it becomes the industry standard. Now, the second system is what we call inbound demand marketing. So a business model that's going to rely on constant promotion, chasing leads, or one-off launches is not scalable. I'm just going to tell you that right now. So that's why that you need a system that's built to generate high intent inbound demand so that clients are coming to you already pre-sold and ready to buy. So instead of relying on hustle-based marketing, you're creating this repeatable, predictable system that attracts these high-quality, high-intent clients. And you're building demand that compounds over time. So you're not just constantly starting from scratch. One of the things we talked about in Winning Angles last week was that we are constantly testing the market to know what different angles of demand exist. And the last piece of the puzzle is that your business has to stop depending on these urgency-driven tactics and start attracting ready-to-buy leads year-round. This is the answer to timeless sales, okay? I cannot say this enough. If you are operating in a niche, if you are operating with arbitrary facts behind your ideal client, it's always going to feel like you're reinventing the wheel, because once we understand our highest intent clients, that actually applies to everything else we're doing. So that is the second system. The third system is bingeable conversions, okay? This is how we look at a high profit business model that doesn't just focus on getting leads, but focuses instead on creating the highest conversions possible with efficiency. So our system focuses on actually creating a sales process that's highly leveraged, is psychology driven, so it's timeless, and it's built to convert buyers quickly. So without endless sales calls, having follow-ups, or trying to convince. So instead of relying on these long sales cycles that everyone talks about, your audience can sell themselves, right? They engage with your content. They're able to go through the decision cycle on their own. And your pricing strategy is built for maximum profit and ease of conversion, because you're no longer having to sell like you're got a bunch of competition. You become a market of one, right? And your system shortens the buyer's journey and it removes that friction. So clients are moving from lead to sale without hesitation. So when your audience binges through your system, they move through the decision process on their own. So by the time they reach you, they're already sold. And last but not least is delivery and retention systems. Now, a scalable business model isn't just about growth, it's about sustainability. This system ensures that your delivery is structured, streamlined, and built for retention. So you can increase profit without increasing a workload. So instead of being stuck in delivery mode, your fulfillment process is built to scale. And your offer is designed for long-term client retention, increasing the lifetime value. And lastly, your system allows for growth without requiring more of your time and energy. So instead of constantly rebuilding, your business becomes more profitable over time with less effort. And the best part is high profit scaling focuses on a system-based growth model instead of a team-based growth model. That means you don't need to have a huge team with high overheads that only leave CEOs stressed and hustling. When your business is dependent on people-based strategies, there's a lot of room for error. And you get to run a lean business model that has the highest profit margins possible so you can keep more of what you make. Now, when these four systems work together, you're not just building a business, you're building a high profit, scalable machine, one that supports your growth, one that gives you freedom and ensures that every decision you make is moving towards the business that you actually want. This is the power behind the Easy Yes method. It's why I practice what I preach and why we've taught over 452 clients how to build truly scalable, sustainable businesses by leveraging this method. So if you want to learn how we can apply our high profit scaling model and the Easy Yes method to your business, I want to invite you to get on a quick call with me. On this call, you and I are going to look at what your business currently does, what your growth goals really look like, and how I can support you in achieving those, and if the Easy Yes method can support you in doing that. So head on over to easyesleads.com/call to book your call right now. But if you want to learn a little bit more about how the Netflix effect works and how this Easy Yes method thing works, I want to invite you to check out our free bingeable mini series where I break down the entire process so you can see those pieces in action. Head on over to thenetflixeffect.com right now to check that out. But until next time, thank you for joining us here today. And I would love and appreciate it if you took 1 minute out of your already busy schedule to subscribe, rate, and share this episode with a friend. But until next time, here's to keeping it real.